Is there any reason to hope for democracy to be able to do anything on climate? I used to be a Chomskyan in this regard. Now I'm more in Garofalo, Lippmann, Bernays, Deng camp, and I should just forget about placing any hope in the U.S. as a force for good. Should we even try to undermine the U.S. so as to quicker get the rest of the world with the other continents on the same page in regards to the climate Armageddon? I'm just freaking out about this. Can you reassure me, Sam? I mean, we're all going to die.
I can't reassure you, but I would recommend Adam Tooze did a review of Andreas Malm's book, How to Blow Up a Pipeline. I think in the London Review of Books, that is a long sort of meditative, I think,
we interviewed him.
Yeah, we did.
On this show.
Yep.
And I think, like, you know, the thing that I think is there's a very good argument that you just simply have to find different ways to make it not profitable. And, you know, one of them was to
resist.
Is to resist and to put some, you know, sticks in the spokes, as it were. Here is Greta Thunberg. She was at COP26. I think going into COP26, there was a sense that this one ain't going to do much. And certainly we start to get the outline of well, the infrastructure bill that just passed is woefully inadequate in terms of going, not just in terms of helping get off of fossil fuel, but it is also problematic in staying on fossil fuel.
It's a climate net negative.
Yes.
Without Build Back Better, we are passing, in the midst of a climate catastrophe, if Build Back Better doesn't get passed, a net negative infrastructure bill for the climate.
Yep.
It's insane.
It's insane. And here is Greta Thunberg in a protest out in Glasgow.
It's also Greta Thunberg, but it's all right. I'm not even going to ask you to
Thunberg. And right. Here she is basically saying, ripping the veneer off COP26.
That COP26 is a failure. It should be obvious that we cannot solve a crisis with the same methods that got us into it in the first place. And more people are starting to realize this. Many are starting to ask themselves, what will it take for the people in power to wake up? But let's be clear, they are already awake. They know exactly what they are doing. This is no longer a climate conference. This is now a Global North Greenwash Festival. A 2-week-long celebration of business as usual and blah, blah, blah. The most affected people in the most affected areas still remain unheard. And the voices of future generations are drowning in their greenwash and empty words and promises. But the facts do not lie. And we know that our emperors are naked. To stay below the target set in the Paris Agreement and thereby minimizing the risk of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control, we need immediate, drastic, annual emission cuts unlike anything the world has ever seen. And as we don't have the technological solutions that alone will do anything even close to that, that means we will have to fundamentally change our society. And this is the uncomfortable result of our leaders' repeated failure to address this crisis. And the climate and ecological crisis, of course, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is directly tied to other crises date back to colonialism and beyond. Crises based on the idea that some people are worth more than others and therefore have the right to steal others, to exploit others, and to steal their land and resources. And it is very naive of us to think that we could solve this crisis without addressing the root cause of it. And the question we must now ask ourselves is, what is it that we are fighting for? Are we fighting to save ourselves and the living planet? Or are we fighting to maintain business as usual? They cannot ignore our screams as we reclaim our power. We are tired of their blah, blah, blah. Our leaders are not leading. This is what leadership looks like.
I mean, whatever. I get like caught up in how awesome she is sometimes, but like the call out of the global colonial element of it too, because it's inextricably linked to inaction on this. It's inextricably linked. The most affected areas are going to be the same areas that we exploited from global capitalism's outset. And they're the same areas that are going to be left behind, the same people that are going to bear the brunt of this, as we are the causes of this exact crisis.
And I mean, I think in terms of when you look at failure of the colonial powers to do anything about it, I think that's why. Right there. I mean, that's basically it. We're just not going to be paying the price. There's a sense that we're not going to be paying the price.
It's become such a farce too, like Bezos, and we're going to play Obama a little bit, but like it is so insulting that billionaires go up there and get to like do their little speech like it's a Toastmasters event and act serious about and look at all the hard work I'm doing on this. It's really it's farcical on a world level.
Well, we covered this with Bezos, who said, "Oh, I'm going to pledge $2 billion." Oh, thank you so much. Like the fact that COP26 is willing to engage in having a billionaire like that, the richest man on planet Earth, come up there and push forward his propaganda that is not designed to do anything on climate. It's designed to get him out of paying taxes that would do anything on climate.
He announced a pledge of half the amount that he spent into space.
Yeah. On his like, you know, masturbatory space exposition. And so like there's the way that you see her and other activists out on the streets making these points, contrast that with Bezos giving a nonsense pledge and COP26 allowing him to do that and mislead everybody, and Obama too. I mean, it's a good transition.
Yeah, let's play this clip. We just heard Greta Thunberg.
It's good.
Just basically rip the veneer off of COP26 and say that it has been used in many ways as a greenwash for both some countries, some enterprises, and some individuals. Speaking of which, Barack Obama showed up and he seemed to be having fun.
I am a private citizen now, so trips like this feel a little bit different than they used to. I don't get invited to the big group photo. Traffic is a thing again. Music doesn't play when I walk into the room. On the positive side, I can give a speech like this without wearing a tie and not create a scandal back home. I hope. But even though I'm not required to attend summits like this anymore, old habits die hard.
How brave.
And when the issue at hand is the health of our planet and the world our children and our grandchildren will inherit, then you will have a hard time keeping me away.
I mean, it's pretty stunning, I gotta say, that, and of course he goes on to say other things, but as you're sitting down to write this, or you're sitting down with the guy who wrote this, like, don't you say, like, I know they're jokes, and I know that we're coming up, I want to be light to open up, but like, do I really want to center me in this conversation about the planet, like the distress that the planet's on? Do I really want to center to make, like, even as a joke? Like,
no, not even as a joke though, because he does make it about his, like, you know, I don't have to wear a tie. And
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like,
no, but
like,
then he makes it about, look, I couldn't stay away though.
Right.
I couldn't stay away.
Right.
I'm too much of a hero to stay away. As you know, Greta and the other activists are out there pounding the pavement and actually making a difference. But he's the one who needs to be centered. And
you also you compare the effort involved in him not staying away versus, like, you know, activists that we had on from Costa Rica the other day, or from the global South, who, I mean, we're, you know, literally like in hallways, sleeping in hallways. Like that's really more of a compulsion than staying away. Hopping on a private jet or a public jet, whatever, when you're the former president, and going over there, it's not like wild horses couldn't keep me away. No, it was just an opportunity for you to take a trip.
It would have looked bad and people wondered where you were, so you wanted to, like, you know, go in glad hand. And like the idea that, oh, I'm going to invoke traffic. Like, we all know what traffic's like in this climate change thing. It's just like the amount of pettiness, but not at all understanding what you're actually talking about.
That too also struck me. Like, wait, you're doing a throwaway with the traffic, like as a joke, but you know, it also represents
part of why we're here.
Part of why we're here. And
the cheekiness of it is like, I mean, he's stuck in some sort of time capsule. Like, this is not 2007, dude. You're not going to just glide in and make some jokes and be charming. I mean, it's just, do you understand the existential threat? Do you understand that, like, there are children and kids, young kids, that have deep fears and anxieties when they hear about this, because they know, and I mean, like, I know this anecdotally from people I know who have young kids who are anxious about the planet. I don't know about your kids, but I mean, that's a real thing. It's just like, we're talking about the dress code.
And I want to, like, I just want to add that. I know there's like parsing hairs here, but I think that, like, to me, that's what I was saying, but even as a joke, because, like, I can see coming in and starting off with something light. You make a joke. He's not a brilliant satirist where it's like, you know, all right, you start off a speech with a joke. Now, maybe you could do it with one that has actually like some bite to it and some, you know, and pointing, and have it be effective with your message. But it's not about being like, you know, it's not just that he was joking. Like, I think there's an argument that, look, you should be taking this more seriously than, you know, but it's whatever, 30 seconds of jokes. It was the nature of the joke where he was centering himself, you know, and that's the part that is really just sort of like,
I think it's the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But that's what he thinks it is.
But I think, yes, and I think like that's also part of the critique that we saw from Thunberg, which is,
I'm making you do the, like, just say
whatever Thunberg. That's part of the critique, is that it's here about the messengers more than the message, that it has become a mechanism for people to validate themselves as opposed to validating the danger that we face. And the idea that he's there on a Monday, he's there today after the infrastructure bill passes, which almost all of the funding that is involved in transportation is for the worst kind of transportation that we could have in the midst of a climate crisis. And as the leader of that party, and, like, you know, there's opportunities here that he's just not taking, because it really is ultimately about not just him, but all of the people there who are in that position to speak. It really is, it's a marketing branding project. And it really is disturbing. And I guess on some level, maybe was inevitable in some respects.
It'd be a nice data project to see how COP has changed from, like, scientists and political figures to billionaires and private citizens.
Yeah.
There's footage out this morning of Leo DiCaprio talking to Jeff Bezos' wife, and Bezos is off to the side. I mean, it's pretty funny, but, like, that's what's happening now. Leo DiCaprio, Obama, Bezos.
It's Aspen.
Yeah.
It really is. It's
Yes.
Aspen.